have Yigva translated as will vanish versus as will drown, and we said before that they are going to take one last breath. So not necessarily that they're going to die of drowning, but they're just going to take one last breath, and then not be, because the reality will be changed and they'll have nothing to continue to support them. And he makes a further note here: Kol asher ba'aretz yigva, most that on the land will vanish, but sea life won't be affected, as the Gemara says. It's Sanhedrin below dagim shavim, because the sea was a barrier for man and for the animals alike, and the corruption that had enveloped the land didn't necessarily envelop the sea creatures. Pasuk Yud V'hakimoti, and I will establish with a mercha. I guess we'll briefly talk about the way that this word is pronounced. Normally, if you were pronouncing that in Hebrew, the second last syllable would be the one with the accent on it. It would be v'hakimoti rather than v'hakimoti. We have the concept of vav hahipuch. The Torah takes this letter vav at the beginning of a word. If it has a patach under it, then what we are doing is we're taking this verb that is in the past tense and in fact turning it into a future tense. This is a biblical construct, not a modern Hebrew construct. And when we are signifying a vav hahipuch, the accent of the syllable goes onto the last syllable rather than where it would normally be the second last syllable. So we get v'hakimoti versus v'hakimoti, to tell you that we are using this vav hahipuch. And the basic idea here is, well, this is a verb that really is in past tense, hakimoti. I did it before. How are we saying that this is in future tense? We have the concept of God looking into Torah and creating the world. So we have the Torah being established before. So it truly is, in some ways, a past tense and also a future tense. It's the way that the world is going to be written in the past already, and it is the way that something is going to happen in the future. So it has the idea of both elements in this concept of vav hahipuch. And I will establish, number one. And by the way, it is something that focuses us onto the main character who is acting. It says v'hakimoti, we're focusing on God doing it. We just read this past week about the 4 and 5 ways that we're going to be taking out of Egypt. V'hotzeti etchem mitachat tzivati v'hitzalti. So again, when we have this vav hahipuch, it really focuses on the main character who is acting. V'avarti be'eretz Mitzrayim b'layla. God Himself is going to pass through the land of Egypt. So again, this vav hahipuch, not only telling us past and future tense at the same time, but focusing us on the main actor in the verb. And I will establish, I will keep up a continuation of the human race from the time of creation, and I will establish for you a new beginning of the world to develop and prosper as indicated by the directional shape of the reading mark. This is a mercha. This is something that's going to lead into what's going to lead gently into what's going to come from after it. So we're going to establish something that's new, that's going to start from here. And what's it going to lead into? Et briti, with my covenant. And he makes a note here in the understanding, Noach was the final type of Adam. So there is no one else who is left who has all the original capabilities that were at the time of creation and in the 10 generations following it. no one else has those characteristics in them. And Abraham becomes the first person to be born into a generation when when Noach was already dead. So there was no more attachment to that previous concept in any possible physical sense. So Noach lives until Terach's generation and dies before Avram's birth. Number 2, Etz Briti. So again, this is going to fold into the concept of the Hakimoti. You will be protected to survive the catastrophe, and with my covenant, I will assure your life, and a successful start of a new civilization is denoted by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So this brit, this covenant that God is going to establish from here on in, is going to close off this new order that's going to be established. Itach, with you, with an etnachta, and again this is the stability in the middle of the sentence, and possibly looking upwards. Although I will be continually with you during your preparations, and while the flood lasts, your own effort and initiative must also be evident. According to the rule, Hakem Takim Imo. If you find your friend's animal struggling, you have to bring it up with him helping you. You don't do it. You don't do all the work by yourself. So itach, with you, this new reality, this new brit, this new covenant that God is going to establish, has to be with Noach as an active participant, and that is what is going to give it its stability. Noach can't just rest on what he's done in the past. He needs to continue to act in the same righteous fashion, even though he's been promised that he is going to be saved. Uvata, again with this vav ha'ipuch, the accent goes not uvata, it goes uvata, and you shall come. At the proper time, this is a pashta, at the proper time you will be notified, and you shall come to find salvation with your construction, as shown by the directional shape of the reading mark. So this pashta is going to say that this is a fact that we're going to highlight a little bit. So his coming is going to be something that is noteworthy, and you shall come with a pashta on top of it. Where is he going to come to? Uvata el hatzeva. So he's going to come to what he's built, and the new brit, the new order is going to happen with his coming to the teva, el hatzeva. So this new covenant doesn't happen at the beginning of the construction of the teva, but rather when it starts to serve its function, when the flood is going to start. El hateva, to the box with a katon. So again, this is going to close off what we started with uvata, and it's going to have this bipartite shape, and we're going to see how that's used. Similarly, various representatives of life who shall equally survive the cataclysm must be admitted to the box as well, in order to transmit remnants of creation of the previous world, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So there are going to be parts from before and parts from after that are going to come to the teva, and we see the before and the after in the fact that we've got the two dots on top of the bait. Ata, this is a zakef gadol, and we'll remember that this is yet again another bipartite mark, and it focuses us rather strongly on the word that we are talking about. I'm sorry, we've missed a comment here. The Zohar compares the Ark of Noach with the Ark of the Commandments, Aron Brit Hashem, but there is also a direct relationship with the box of Moses, which also survived. So when Moses was also put in at Teva. So why is he making the comment here?
Well, he was to help preserve life. He was made a burden and a pitch on the outside. But ultimately, he was to preserve life. I think the same with the around Brit Hashem, that this is the essence of life that is protected within this box of wood, as it were.
I also wonder if it means V'hakimoti et briti itach, using you. So with you, in the sense of, like, I shovel the earth with a shovel. So I am setting up my commandment with you, using you. Uvata el hateva. So in what way you will come to the ark, and so that will show that I am establishing my covenant with you.
I think rather what he's saying is that this new covenant is going to start when he comes to the Teva, versus those 120 years that he is in fact building the Teva. So it doesn't start from the beginning of the construction. It starts from when he comes to the Teva.
Oh, I agree. And I think that's the moment, V'hakimoti et briti itach, Uvata el hateva, is I will establish my covenant with you as you are coming into the Teva.